All right. Hello from Hemmingford, Quebec, everybody. I'm David Smith, Data Smith on Chess, and welcome to more of Hemmingford Chess Club's online chess content. Now, of course, today we have no sponsor, mostly because I'm trying to do this video without any editing, and I couldn't find anybody willing to take that risk. So, just to give a little update on the tournament, so round one is pretty much done. One game is still to play, and unfortunately, one game forfeited. In sections A and D, we had clean sweeps by white in both sections, so that's, I guess, hardly surprising. And as I think I've already told you, we're trying a different formula this time. We're going to do, instead of round reports, we're going to do a series of interviews. This is something I've always wanted to do. I tried it once with Dominic, or Dark Tiger, with more or less disastrous results on the technical front, which is a bit of a drag, but I think we've solved all those issues by now. But it's primarily for me right now a way of dealing with a lack of time to actually put in the analysis time to do proper round reports. As I think I've mentioned a couple of times, I'm retiring at the end of February, and between now and then, I've got an enormous amount of things to do at work. So I'm basically going to make people like Oscar Chavez do all the work for me. Oscar, you will know, of course, as Chaveso in our tournaments. He lives in Bloomington, Illinois, and has been probably one of the most faithful participants in our events for at least, I don't know, a couple of years now. Let me just swap over to the screen so you can take a look and get a look at Oscar's face. Say hi to the crowd, Oscar.
Hey, hi everybody.
So welcome to the to our little broadcast here, Oscar. It's really a pleasure to finally be able to put a face to your name,
Yeah,
and
thank you.
thanks so much for being willing to do this. I'm really an amateur at all of this sort of stuff, and so if there's a few bumps in the road in the interview, I really appreciate your tolerance.
Hmm.
But just know I'm sort of learning as I go along.
Yeah,
So I think we'll start just by asking you if you can tell us a bit about yourself and your chess journey. Like, when you got
yeah,
started playing chess. Have you been playing since you were a kid?
yeah.
Whether you
Well,
play in clubs or over the board events or strictly online, just give us a little idea of.
yeah. I learned to move the pieces as a child, and then I played with my neighbor a few times. I mean, probably no more than 30 games over 2 or 3 years. Never played anybody else, and I was never any good. But I liked reading about chess. I kept with the news of the world champions, and then much later in life, in the 2000s, I bought a couple of books because I wanted to get serious about finally playing chess. The books just stayed in the bookshelf, but I kept, reading the news about the chess events in the world. And then, of course, I watched the Queen's Gambit, and I thought I should play again. I should learn to play and play. And so I began playing online. I had a chess.com account since 2007 or so, but I don't think I ever used it. But then I began playing online, mostly daily games, and and that was it. So I began playing a little more. I'm not very good, but I had very naive expectations of rapid progress, which did not materialize. Uh, but I enjoy playing. I enjoy reading about chess. I enjoy buying books that I don't read. Um, and I enjoy going to over the board events. I've been in, I don't know, now maybe 4 or 5 in-person tournaments, small local tournaments here in Illinois, Chicago, and in towns nearby. Because of my rating, I always face children, and most of the time they beat me. But it's always an interesting experience. So
Mhm.
I teach mathematics, so I have ulterior motives to make efforts to become better at chess. It helps me think about learning in general and what are the difficulties of learning, what are optimal strategies, and so in that respect has been very useful. My chess remains as bad as usual, but now I have a lot of ideas about the intersection of learning chess, learning mathematics, and at the very least, this has been a good metaphor in my mathematics classes when I talk with students about learning mathematics.
That's actually pretty interesting because in another life, I was a chess teacher for an
Mhm.
organization here in Montreal called the Chess and Math Association,
Oh, interesting.
and it was called that because a professor of math had developed a mathematics curriculum that included teaching chess as part of the curriculum. I think
Mm.
they started in grade 2. When my
Oh,
daughter was in school, she did that math curriculum, and all the kids learned how to play chess. And what it did was in Montreal is that it created a whole, basically a mini industry of whatever parascola, what do you say in English? Extracurricular activities
yeah.
for playing chess, and also taking chess lessons. So a whole bunch of us, including I am Dave Ross, in fact, who we know from the simultaneous last fall.
Hmm.
He and I
Yeah.
were both teachers of chess in
Oh,
schools at that
interesting.
point, yeah, as part of the math program, which was pretty fun.
Yeah.
And so you're not the only one to find the connection between chess and math
Yeah.
a useful one,
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
It's about patterns, David. It's about patterns.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, very neat. And so, when you're not teaching and obsessing about chess, do you have any other sorts of things that keep you busy? If you
I
care to share, of course. This is obviously a personal
Yeah, yeah,
question.
yeah. I enjoy reading about military history. For some reason, it's one of my deepest interests. Um, and well, I lift weights, I watch movies, but
Hmm.
I would say that in terms of reading and taking time to do something, military history is one of the things I enjoy a lot.
Cool. Okay. So, do you want to take a look at a game?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'll just swap over here to the display here, and here what we have on the board here is, I guess, your first round game against Jose Betancas. I don't know if that's actually his last name. I know his first name is Jose. He's from Portugal.
Yeah. Hmm.
New participant in our tournaments. So you had a couple of positions you wanted to show us.
Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna go ahead.
Um, Yeah, well, as I was saying, I played an unfamiliar opening for me, hoping to make it unfamiliar for him as well. Uh, but I think he got the best of it. So this is, I think, the first position that I wanted to take a look at. I I was trying to create some trouble and difficulties and make the game do not go as he could expect. But of course, that could only be done by going in ways that I did not expect either. So every position was new for me, probably for him as well. But anyway, at this point in the game, this is move 7. A series of trades began, and I think I did not play them as I should have.
Hmm. So you're gonna show them to us, I guess.
Yeah. So what my plan was after pushing this pawn to what is that e5. I knew he would have to either trade or uh, I did not calculate to the end of it. And also there was a reason why I put my bishop on g4, which was to if I may go back a couple. So here, my reason to put this bishop here was that his knight could not defend e5 anymore.
Hmm.
But of course, he moved his bishop to make that possible. So when I pushed this and we began trading pieces, here is, I think, the important point.
Right.
Uh, Following my original plan, I should have taken his knight on f3, but I got excited about getting the center and forgot what I was supposed to do.
Okay, so you say you hadn't calculated up to here. You
Yeah,
just had a
exactly.
general notion that the trades, that you had something that you could get out of the trades.
Exactly. That
Okay,
after trading pieces, I would be in a better position,
right.
but I did not quite plan it carefully. Yeah.
Okay. So what followed here was the capture on e5. Your bishop on g4 is hanging, so you
Hmm.
traded it off, and now we're still even.
Yeah.
Whereas what you're suggesting is um, that you could have played
Yeah. Take his
this
knight
move.
first. Yeah.
Right, right. So now you've removed the defender from e5,
Exactly.
and
So we still could trade bishops, but now I get his bishop
now,
for
right,
free.
and here you're up a piece. Right.
Yeah.
So what's the lesson here? I guess it's is it a calculation lesson? You have to.
Well, I think so. I think it's well, I don't know how to describe it. I think it's a matter of paying attention. The
Mm,
moves that I played before had a reason, and then I forgot
right.
what was that reason. I So that was one thing for me that uh, when learning a new opening or playing an opening for the first time or one of the first times. Uh, the moves that I make I guess I should pay attention why those moves are good moves in a particular
Yep.
opening,
Yep.
so that when I face a position that I'm unfamiliar with, I should know what was the goal of the opening and then adjust accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I just began trading and I thought, okay, let's see what happens.
Right.
So I think it was both a matter of perhaps taking a little more time and calculate a little further down.
Yep.
Um, but also, as I play openings that I'm not familiar with, pay attention to the reason behind the moves involved in that particular
Yeah.
opening.
Yeah.
I had time. I mean, the game was
Oh, for
just
sure.
beginning,
Yeah.
and so it was not time pressure, and I
Yeah.
probably played more quickly than I should have.
I think you're not alone in that kind of error of, you did identify correctly, that here you were at a critical position here. You decided to play e5 to initiate a series of trades.
Mhm.
Um, and I do the same thing where you say, all right, I'm committed to this series of trades. I'm going to make them. And then you almost automatically bang out the next moves.
Yeah,
Capture, I must recapture. Oh,
exactly.
that
Yeah,
bishop is there on e5. I must recapture. And
exactly. Yeah,
if we took the time at each move to consider how the position has changed ever so subtly,
yeah.
then you might say, yes, I have to recapture on e5. That's for sure. But there's this little, what's it called, Zwischenzug or whatever, a German word, the little
Oh, okay. Yeah,
in between
Zwischenzug.
move, the in
Yeah,
between
in
move
between
here
move. Yeah.
that would have netted you a whole piece.
Yeah, you put it nicely. I was thinking that, when there's only one possible capture, then maybe there's not a lot to think. But if there's
Exactly.
more than
Yeah,
one, then I should make a pause and think which
that's
one
right.
should I
That's
capture
right.
first? Yeah.
But that's something too that I see coming up all the time in my play is the fact that your brain naturally wants to take shortcuts, right? And this
Yeah.
is that's a way that normally is a very good habit after all, that our brain is looking for the simplest way to get to a solution.
Yeah.
But often in a game, those shortcuts can cost us, and it's worth sort of holding back a second and taking a second look. All right. Um, and then now you had a second position that you wanted to look at very briefly here, which is down
Yeah.
at.
About 10 moves later, let me
Yes.
go
Okay.
back one. Yeah. When we got here, I mean, by now I was really concerned. All the center was wide open, and he had a very active queen that had my pieces back to the against the wall.
Yep.
And so it was pretty uncomfortable for me. But at least I thought, well, at least his rook is not moving. His what is that? His queen's rook. His rook on
Yep. Yep.
a1. And I thought, well, that's something. But then played his knight to open the rank for his rook to come out, and at this time I took a while thinking, what should I do. So I did consider taking his knight, but then I thought that because of the material advantage, it was probably not on my benefit to trade pieces after looking at the game at the end. That night caused a lot of trouble
Yeah.
that
Yep.
that I would have not faced if I had taken the night at this point.
For sure. Yeah, and
So what I
I
did was I moved my rook. I thought, well, this has to be a good move,
mm-hmm.
because now I'm putting pressure on that file. But it was not to be. That knight became very active later, and I had at least a couple more times to take it because he couldn't move it right away, which was actually the purpose of my putting the rook there, to at least cover one exit for the knight.
Well, for sure, the immediate threat is that you capture on a3, and then once he recaptures, the pawn on c3 is gone.
Yeah.
Interesting. And here, yes, in fact, you are down a couple of pawns, but I think perhaps, I'm just throwing this out here, but perhaps you've overestimated the actual activity of White's pieces. At this point, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
sure, White has a couple of rooks, but they're not actually doing anything. Whereas, your queen is probably worth what his queen is.
Mm.
Anyway, it's and yes, you are down those pawns, but there's no real loss in sort of making his life as miserable as you can, say, by
Yeah.
the variation we looked at before we actually came online.
Yes.
Where all of a sudden that c3 pawn is vulnerable.
Yeah, and when I think the lesson here for me is, I just looked at how the material balance would change,
Exactly.
uh, and did not pay attention to how his pawns were going to be placed after
Yeah,
the capture and recapture. And so, for example, this position, it would have been nice to see this in my mind
for
when
sure.
I was thinking about it, but I did not even get there. I just thought, no, I'll stay the same, and
Mm-hmm.
so I think at the moment what I thought is that I was going to be able to close a way out for his knight.
Okay.
That pushing my pawns and with my rook, I would leave that knight kind of trapped there, but
Right. Right.
that didn't happen.
Okay. Oscar, thank you so much for sharing all these positions. And
Thank you for discussing them with me. This has been very useful.
yeah, good. And I really appreciate you being willing to do this, in public in front of. I, I tell you, I'm a musician as well as a chess player occasionally.
Ah,
And the absolute worst nightmare for me as a musician is not to play in front of a crowd of people I don't know, but rather to play in front of people that I do know and the musicians that I play with.
yeah.
And it's a bit the same with chess, like showing a game to the people that beat you regularly is a bit,
Yeah,
takes a little
exactly.
bit of nerve. And I
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah,
appreciate you
yeah.
being willing to do it.
Yeah, opening my heart and showing all my weaknesses. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. All right. Well, thank you very, very much, Oscar. As I say, I
Thank you.
really do
Thank you.
appreciate it. And for anybody else out there who's interested in bearing their soul to all the rest of us, please be in touch. I'd be more than willing to talk to you. And hopefully, we'll have somebody to talk to next week. Thanks again, Oscar.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.